Hello, I'm David DeCosmo. Welcome to ECTV Live. I'm joined by my co-host, Rusty Fender. Rusty?
And Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to you.
All the best in 2019.
Yeah, especially with our friends of the Russian Orthodox faith.
Absolutely.
Faith celebrating. And one of the biggest events of the year has also begun this week, and it's the Pennsylvania Farm Show. And every year we have been privileged to have Dave Williams, who is a farm broadcaster, join us, and Dave taking a few minutes out from his schedule at the farm show to join us.
Hi, Dave.
Dave, as we've said so many times, this is the biggest, this is the big show.
This is the big show. And of course, you know, it all started back on January 5th, and it'll end up on the 12th, but it's the biggest indoor farm show in the United States. So real interesting for whether you're, how should I say, a connoisseur of cooking, or whether you're into animals or whatever it might be. It's all here at the farm show.
You know, we've talked in the past about agriculture being one of the biggest industries, if not the biggest industry in Pennsylvania. Is that still true?
It is the biggest industry in Pennsylvania, and it's the #1 industry. But you know, think about it. You know, we all eat.
And one of the reasons you don't is if you're a guy who likes to drive around like I do, I see so many housing developments where I used to see farms.
You're right.
Absolutely.
But the central part of the state is like Kansas. That is where the agriculture comes in.
Right. When you get into Lancaster, you get into, say, Center County and all these places, you realize a tremendous amount of agriculture is still there. And a lot of young people getting into agriculture. And, you know, it isn't always the big farms that you and I are used to seeing. A lot of it's small farms. We're seeing farm to markets. We're seeing people that might only have 5 acres or 10 acres that are in produce or something. We have specialized people that are maybe into raising chickens or whatever it might be, and it doesn't take that much acreage.
So, well, now, when you say, and I'm glad to hear it, but it always surprises me to hear it, that young people are getting into farming, and that actually brings up something. You brought a photo along.
Right.
And these young men and women are crowded around what looks to be the Penn State Lion. What are we seeing here, and why is it significant?
Well, not this year, but last year, they actually, after 40 years, Wayne County got their first FFA back.
That's Future Farmers of America.
Right, and that chapter was dormant for over 40 years.
Wow.
So, and the first year they had over 120 students that signed up. And it's really more, the teachings over the years has gone more to science than it is just putting somebody in there who can't pass in another class. And you know, that happened a lot around the country. Now it's really about science, because to be a farmer, a tremendous amount of science goes into it.
Oh, sure. Well, now, are like the folks we see in this photo, I would almost think if they're getting into agriculture that they'd be, you know, the sons and daughters of people who have farms. Is that always the case?
No.
It's not.
In fact, some of the most positive farmers that I meet have never been in farming before in their life.
Oh, that surprises me.
Yeah.
That really does.
And of course, it all comes down to education and their will of wanting to do it.
It's no longer generational anymore, because now you need a whole new education with, again, the environmental concerns that you have, and, you know, terraced planting, and, farming that you have to turn over and use certain areas at certain times and all that, conservation farming. It's a whole new science-based industry
Absolutely
anymore.
is.
Yeah, it really
now,
is.
there is a lot of farmers that their farms have been handed down, and especially we've seen that for many years here in the dairy industry. But the dairy industry has had hard times these last years.
Well, the dairy farms are the ones that I saw closing over the years here in the northeastern
Absolutely.
part. So when you say that, you know, we look at agriculture in the Lancaster area, for instance, and it is a tremendous part of the industry yet. What about right here in northeastern Pennsylvania?
In northeast Pennsylvania, we are seeing, in fact, I was at a dinner here a couple of weeks ago where the food growers had their banquet, 14 years of farmers market. And I was really surprised how it had grown over the years and how many vendors they have now. And of course, agriculture takes so many different ways about it. You know what I mean? Somebody might specialize in flowers. Somebody might specialize in, for instance, pork or whatever it might be. They don't have to be gigantic, and they might be secondary farmers, or some people call them hobby farmers, but they still make a good living at it, supplement their other income, and they love it so much. Most people that are in the agricultural business, or farming, I should say, do it because they love it. And they got it in their blood.
It's like brewing anymore. It's like craft brewing with all these different brewing companies, these small micro brewers. Right. It's craft farming. They have a way to sustain their income with a real not that this isn't real, but a full-time job, and then they do this as more or less a sustainable hobby as well. It's a whole new world, you know?
Interesting you say that too, because I know just from what I see, that one of the biggest areas of growth in agriculture and farming, and I'm sure it's well displayed at the farm show, is our wine industry.
Absolutely.
Big time.
The wine is, for years, I've been right across from it. This year I'm not. They moved them a little bit. But the wine industry has really grown. It's one of the fastest growing industries in Pennsylvania. And an interesting part, it's one of the fastest growing, how should I say, group of people in farming are women. A tremendous amount of women are coming into agriculture.
Well, now, okay, well, let's look back at what we consider a typical farm of the mom and dad and the family operating the farm. So they've got X amount of acres they've got to work. Now, when these young people come into the farming industry, the agriculture industry, I don't suspect they're all going to go out and buy acres and acres of land. Do they come out and do they then work for someone else? Or?
Well, let's talk about the Plains folks in Lancaster. Many times they split their farms up to their children, and then that's their stepping stone.
That'd be the Amish community we're thinking of.
And that would be their stepping stone. Now, I'm seeing this with many young people. They might buy 5 or 10 acres of ground and start their own type of operation. Maybe it might be a fruit and vegetable business or whatever, especially with the new high tunnel technology and things like this. But that is a stepping stone. The next thing you know, all of a sudden they got 20 acres. They're buying somebody else out. That's how they grow. And it's almost like any business. You know, a fellow buys a backhoe, and 15 years later, he's got 5 or 6 of them and 10 dump trucks. You know, it's no different.
Is a lot of that technology on display at the farm show?
Absolutely. This is the part of the farm show that's so great. Whether it's a high tunnel, whether it's organic, whether it's commercial, whether it's livestock, whatever direction you want to go, it's on display there. And, you know, for instance, the University of Pennsylvania is our vet school for Pennsylvania. They're there, they're talking about the new things that are coming out, what they're doing. We're hearing from Penn State, Delaware Valley, just got voted one of the top 20 in the country for their animal science. These are people that put their heart into it, and you can sit down and talk to them, learn where you can get your education, learn about so many things. The part I like though the best is the celebrity cook-off. You know,
what are they? They actually have.
Right, we even had the governor there last year cooking. He had the apron on.
And we have to mention too, Dave, that this is a success story in itself with your radio network. You started on one station decades ago, and now this man is feeding the world globally from the Pennsylvania Farm Show.
Absolutely.
It's truly unbelievable the way you've built it up to a network.
This is my 20th year this year, and PCN is celebrating 30 years this year for their coverage of the Farm Show. And when I first started out, the first few years, I was there for 2 or 3 days, and then all of a sudden, my listeners wanted me there every day, and I'm there for 9 days. I'm there for the pre and everything else. But you're right. We're not only on the radio on about 12 to 1,400 stations across here during that week, right?
It is.
But then we jump over to RFD TV, which is 60 million homes that it's in 17 countries. So almost every year I have 5 or 6 people from Ireland or England come up to me and want to talk to me and say how they see me on TV.
We have Dave on our radio show on 94.3 FM, The Talker. It's a shale gas show. We have Dave on every year around the same time. We'll be getting to you this year. and we have to wait, and he can only give us a few minutes because there's Holland down the line and Paris, and it is truly unbelievable the way you've built this up into a
And
global network.
They're watching agriculture right here in
Yes, isn't that
Pennsylvania.
incredible?
And of course,
Well,
the
they-
farm show is the
Absolutely.
premier
And I feel
venue
honored
for
to do it,
seeing
really. We do about 6 to 7 short shows a day and send them out to different radio stations across the land. I have a minimum of one actual intern this year. I'm probably going to have 2 or 3. And these people, they're just great. You know, the young people. I love
Sure.
working with them.
And do you cover things like, you mentioned the celebrity cook-off. I know you've got those unique things down there. I always mention, because my wife's interested, the sheep to Shaw, where they actually take the sheep and they shear them there and they spin the wool and wind
And then
up.
they sell the Shaw.
Then they sell them. well, that, yeah.
and then the butter.
there's
butter
always, there's always a
Yeah,
gigantic
butter's a big deal.
sculpture made of butter.
Yeah, absolutely.
Pardon
And you know, and then they melt that down at the end of the show, and they use that to give. It more or less goes for usage now. They used to be able to give it to people to eat, but now because of different laws and things like that, they actually use it to melt it down for heat.
Ah.
So something different.
Yeah, but
as a fuel
there's so
for it.
many things to see there. You've got that sheep to Shaw. You've got the celebrity cook-off. They've got the regular square dancing. They've got tractor square dancing.
yeah.
And one of the things we haven't mentioned that kind of ought to pique your interest is the admission cost.
Zero.
Zero.
Yeah.
There's no admission cost.
There is a charge for parking, but you know, get as many as you and I have talked about. Fill the bus up and come on down. You know,
Right.
It's one price, and it fits all. But realistically, some of the parts I really love is the horse competition. The beautiful draft horses and all, and their wagons and carriages and things of that nature. The rodeos, go into the poultry section where you see the little eggs hatching out
Yeah.
chickens, right? All these things just fascinate people. And you know, to somebody that was raised in a farm, it's old hat sometimes. But just to look at the expressions of these people is so tremendous. In the calving corner, I go over there about 2-3 times a day when they're having their calves. They call me up and tell me so we can video it. And the expressions on these people's faces when that cow has that there calf is unbelievable.
Sure.
And how that calf gets up on wobbly legs and the mama's licking it and getting it all cleaned up for show.
Well, kids love to see the animals, of course, and
And adults do too. I'm really surprised by that. The adults are just, especially people that never have contact with animals. They just can't believe a big cow or a big horse like that is that gentle. And it's really, and these people take such good care of the animals.
Now, in case you don't know, the farm show has its own complex, gigantic buildings, right off of Interstate 81.
Right.
So it's easy from
Cameron
this area
Street
of
exit.
northeastern
Mhm.
Pennsylvania.
Cameron.
Very easy to get there and be on all week long. And again, it's free. I want to get back to agriculture right here in our own backyard, as it were, as we talk about the farm show, though. We had a tremendously rainy season in 2018, and I'm wondering how devastating that was to some of the farmers right here in our area.
Well, it was very devastating. A lot of farmers didn't even get their complete first cutting off as far as hay goes. And that's really effective to the dairy farmers because the hay quality was very poor. So on top of low prices, you know, having a problem with your crops doubles that problem. And it just goes on and on. But also the loggers having a tremendous time. They can't get into the woods and things like that. It's just an all-around been really a hard thing on agriculture.
So are we likely to see here in 2019 some price increase for the product just to, compensate for all that?
The sad
problem?
part of it isn't going to, I don't think. We're seeing milk prices at an all-time low, and that's very discouraging because, the dairy farmers need that money to be successful. And when you think about it, what they go through, you have to take a cow, you have to breed it, You have to wait 9 months for it to have a calf, and then the lactation starts. They milk it for about another 9 months, dry it up, and that continues. All that goes into making that gallon of milk that you buy in the store, and you're only paying $2.50, $3
Which
a
is state
gallon.
regulation,
right?
which is the problem.
Plus the regulations,
yeah.
the equipment expenses and all. And I personally think a gallon of milk should be at least $5 a gallon so that the farmer can break even. That's all he's asking for, is to break even.
And you can't stop the milk production.
No, you can't.
No, because you're up at 3 in the morning, whether it's snowing, whether it's Christmas Day, or
right.
whether it's 100 degrees.
And the bad part of it is, like you said, them dairy farms going out of business creates a crisis when it comes to our environment, because that open land disappears in housing developments and things like that. So really, supporting that local dairy farmer is so important. And we're actually here at the farm show, we're talking with the ag committees and that about things that we can do to help. And one of the things, if you're a Pennsylvania person, drink Pennsylvania preferred milk. Very important.
Oh, yeah, sure. You should be able to tell where the milk is coming
Absolutely.
from.
You can go in the stores and you'll see that Pennsylvania preferred sticker on there. That means where it's coming from. And I think
Well, and then that brings up another avenue of agriculture that I personally really love to see is the local farmers markets. Now, there's one in Scranton that's very, very successful. There's one in Wilkes-Barre, very, very successful in this area. And here you go to a market and you can find produce made right in your own area, produced right in your own area.
And you can talk to the farmers. That's the great part. The people that produce it. You know, remember when we used to go to church social, you know, we always want to know who was making that lunch before we bought it.
That's true.
And
That's true.
there's a lot to it, you know, and knowing their, you can get to know them and find out what their problems are and tell them what you want them to grow and things like that. It's a two-way street, and it's great for the consumer as well. And you need that. Consumer is the #1 issue. We need them consumers, and we need the consumers to understand Pennsylvania agriculture is the greatest in the
Well,
world.
now the state helps there. We've talked about this once before in the program. If you are a senior citizen and fall within the income guidelines, which most do, especially if you're getting Social Security, you can get the farm vouchers,
Right.
which are they're worth $5 a piece. I think you can get 3 of them, something like that.
Right.
And you can use those at the markets for particular items.
Absolutely, and this goes with the PA preferred system. And in other words, people in that market, I was actually the founder of the Hawley, founding president of the Hawley Farmers Market, which was 14 years ago, going to be 15 the first year. And we went 100% Pennsylvania preferred because of that reason. We could take the vouchers, we could at the same token, help people get fresh vegetables that were on low incomes, and it made a big difference to the farmers market. It made a big difference with the relationship with those people.
Yeah, let me point out for those watching, if you don't know, and you are a senior citizen and you qualify income-wise, which again most will, you can get those farmers vouchers every year by going through your county area, your area on aging. They provide those, and they usually come to the senior citizen centers and go one week, one another week, and you can sign up for those.
And one of the good things, you can learn about a lot of these things and programs that are out there at the Pennsylvania Farm Show here. Everybody you ever need to talk to is here, from government to, whether it's federal, state, or whatever. They're here, they're willing to talk to you, and they're looking to help you.
I kind of wonder, though, about, you mentioned, for instance, earlier you mentioned the logging industry. Right. What can the logging industry show you at a farm show?
Well, you ought to go to that.
Well,
we have the woodmobile
give us
there.
An idea.
It's amazing. Pennsylvania is blessed with some of the most beautiful exotic hardwoods in the world. And at the farm show, we have the woodmobile. It displays everything you can imagine, from spinning wheels to, furniture. And of course, it shows all the different kinds of woods and things like this.
Plus,
great
how to
education
debark trees and everything. It's amazing how they can strip a tree and
Yeah. And they're absolutely, it's another part of our agriculture world. you know. And,
Yeah.
a lot of people just take it for granted. They think we got a tree out there, but and the Christmas tree folks, they're there also, you know.
Oh, well, I
And,
know that our state is very big with producing Christmas trees. There was another industry that was a little hard hit by the rain last year.
Right,
That's right.
But it's come on with the frost and the cold weather now. This year, many of them I talked to, they're coming back very strong. And a lot of people are in the Christmas spirit, naturally, and this year. And of course, now that's over with. But, you know, it has been another good year for the Christmas tree business here in Pennsylvania, and I'm happy for that. You know.
Yeah. Do they primarily sell out of state? Do they take truckloads into New York and New Jersey?
Well, they have auctions here, and we don't know where they go, but there is auctions that they have.
So the growers have an auction, and then buyers from
Buyers come in and buy
They come in and buy 'em.
a flock
Yeah.
of them.
And
Yeah.
they might come from Virginia or anywhere, and you know, wherever, especially New York City and things like that,
That's good
people come
revenue.
in.
Yeah, usually, you know, the tree on occasion for Rockefeller Centers come from Pennsylvania, the state,
Yes, yeah,
the
I've
national
seen- you're
capital.
right, yeah.
So it's Pennsylvania's
They
pretty
look at it
big.
as a value-added product,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
It's going to
Absolutely.
be value-added when they get it.
No, you're right.
Now, at the show, there's actually a lot of competition, isn't there?
Absolutely. That is a big part of it. Whether they're showing cattle, whether it's, you know, for instance, the sheep to show, that's a competition too.
Right.
And so many more things that you can come here and see the competition. It's just great. It's really great. And different, you know, before the week's over, I'm dead tired, right? Because I covered everything from the hogs to the sheep. They even have rabbit jump, you know, where the rabbits run the line and jump over these, kind of like on a miniature side, like a horse jump would be.
Oh, gee.
And all this stuff is part of it, you know, and it just, it's great. And see so many people involved in it, the young kids especially, the 4-H, the FFA and all.
Yeah.
And the great showmanship they show you, and really what great showmen they are in the respect, if they lose, they don't get upset. They might go help their neighbor or somebody they'd never met before that they might not have something, and they give it to them to help them win. And
Well, I've seen the again they're young, you know, teenagers a lot of times. Pardon me, bring in a steer that they've raised
yeah.
from a calf, and I guess how are they judged primarily on how they're groomed and
There's a lot that's naturally their stance and how they handle and all that. It's all goes into, and it depends on the judge too. You know?
Sure.
Like if it was you and I, we'd be over there judging the Hershey contest. You know?
yeah.
Rusty.
But then
something else.
if a youngster at a 4-H group and has a winning steer, for instance, they then sell those
The steer, right.
at the farm
and
show.
they bring big money, you know, and that's the granddaddy. It's most states have state fairs.
Right.
Really, the Pennsylvania Farm Show is our state fair.
Ah.
And so they bring them there to get the top money they can to go towards their educations and everything
How
else.
many people at the farm show every year on the average?
On the average, it runs between 500,000 and 700,000. So we've had it as high as
100,000,
750.
5 and 700,000.
Right.
Close to a million people. That's
There's a lot of
amazing,
people
yeah.
there, you know.
Yeah,
and,
yeah.
But
You would think it's waning, the farming business, until you see 700,000 people in a week or so cross your threshold.
And I guess this is this the biggest farm show in the country?
in the United States,
It is, really.
biggest indoor farm show.
Indoor.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
And, it's a great event. I'll tell you, the food court, all Pennsylvania food, you'll be amazed. You know, I'm not too much for salads and that, but they got the best salads I ever
Really?
tasted down there. And of course, things, you know, when you get an ice cream cone with maple syrup on top of it, you'd be surprised at what a difference it is.
I want the meat section of the food court. If I'm going, I'm not having lettuce when I go to the farm
Well,
show. Let me tell you,
Pennsylvania-
I'm having steak,
The
not
Pennsylvania
lettuce.
beef,
Dining with you.
the beef
You
council and
would.
all, they have a stand there, and you can go over there and you can get some of the finest. I mean, it's just delicious. It melts in your mouth. You know?
Well, farm show on all this week, and it's at the complex in Harrisburg. And again, the admission is free. There is a parking charge, but that's little to pay for the greatest show on earth. Now that Ringling's is shut down,
That's right.
this has got to take
That's
that
right.
title, I
You're
suspect, right, Dave?
That's about it. And I'll tell you, come on down, look me up. I'm in the family living section. I'm right next to the PCN, and always looking to
Well, I
talk
know.
to
You have to
people.
make an appointment to meet you, though, anymore. You've gotten so big. It's a good thing. It's a
I love
wonderful
them.
thing.
I love talking to people. I think that's how I got into this business.
Well, thank you so much.
enjoy
I
it.
know you got to get
Thanks,
back
Dave.
down there now
Right.
because the show's on right now. So we thank you so much
Happy
for
New
joining
Year,
us.
Dave.
Happy
Same
New
to
Year
you.
to you. And Rusty, thank
Happy
you so
New Year,
much.
Dave.
And to you as well. And Mark McGlory,
You too,
thank
Mark.
you for all of your work. I'm David DeCosmo for ECTV Live. Until we see you again next time, here's hoping all your news is good.